Hello and welcome, Sparkmas here. Very excited as always to be showing off my new plugin, Dropsy. It's a Bukkit Spigot plugin for Minecraft which allows you to define custom drops which will come out when you break different material types. That might sound like a lot of other plugins you've heard, but this is highly configurable with a lot of cool features like different items dropping at different depths, only dropping certain things if you have certain items in your hand. Really tight control over the different rates of different things dropping. You can drop items of different data types, so not just like regular glass but different colored stained glass, things like that. Okay, so as always with a new plugin, I do like to show where we're getting the code. So let's pull from GitHub and you can see we're getting it. It's GitHub, Sparkmas is the account, Dropsy is the project, and if we take a brief look at the POM.xml file, you can see we're on version 1.0.0. Okay, let's just take a brief look at the config file while I log into the server. Okay, so over here, as usual, you can see some normal stuff at the top like debug. It's set to false. We're going to go ahead and set this to true because I really want to show you some of these logging that happens so you can kind of see what's going on under the hood for why some of the settings are triggering drops and some aren't. One thing you're going to want to do when you get this plugin, if you want to configure it yourself at all, which I totally recommend, there's a lot to play with to have fun, you're going to want to set this to true. So that's don't load example. If you set that to false, it's going to reload my example settings every time. That might mess with some of the things you've changed sometimes, not all the time though. Let's just to be safe, just set that to true and it will never mess with anything that you've configured. Okay, so as you can see here, the layout of the config file has some high level things like a drop %, destroy on break, allow rebreak. So these settings you'll see in different layers of the config file. So this is the highest level setting, so this is like what to use by default on some of the other lower level settings, but if you've defined those settings in the lower level, it'll use them there. So just to go over what those mean, allow rebreak, that means if you define a drop for sand and it doesn't drop, should the person be able to put the sand right back down and try it again, kind of like when you try to get flint out of some gravel. The default is false for that. Destroy on break, so if some special item drops out of it, should we give them the normal thing they would have gotten anyways, or should we just kind of destroy that thing that they would have gotten? And then the drop chance %, like what % chance is there that this special thing will drop? So you'll see those settings at the lower level too, and those will override it at the higher level. There's actually 3 different levels: the global level, the individual material level of the thing you're breaking, and then at the level of the items that drop out of it. Okay, so let's go into the config and take a look. We got a little area set up here where we got a big dirt plane. If it gets a little too grassy, I can just hit this button here. Oops, okay, never mind. I'll put that button back later. But anyways, that button makes dirt fill this whole field, but we got enough dirt here to play with. Okay, so looks like it's raining. It's fine. Let me clear it up actually. Okay, so the first thing I want to show off is some special items that come with this. So you can define a molten shovel and an archaeologist shovel. The molten shovel is 2 coal blocks in the top, blaze rod in the middle top, obsidian on the sides in the middle, diamond shovel in the very middle, lava buckets on the sides of the bottom, and red stained glass in the bottom middle. The molten shovel will do things like turn sand into glass when you dig it with the molten shovel. Let's go ahead and take this. Next we have the archaeologist shovel that has compasses on the top with a totem of undying in the middle, empty maps in the middle, on the sides of the middle, and then diamond shovel in the very middle, bones in the sides of the bottom, and a skeleton skull in the middle bottom. Let's go ahead and take that shovel too. What this will do is just drop different kind of like things in dirt. It's only configured to work with dirt right now, but you can play with it and add your own items later. You'll see. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to this chest and just get some other items. Just get a regular shovel, pickaxe, some granite, dirt, gravel, and sand. Those are the materials that this plugin is configured to work with by default. Okay, and let's just actually go ahead and go into game mode 0, survival mode. Okay, so now you can see here we have some sand. If I use just a regular shovel, there is a chance that I'll drop stuff. So the reason why, and actually we need to reload the server too because I did change those config settings. Right, we have debug true now. Okay, so if we look at sand, when you break sand, it has a range. It's going to drop 1 to 3 things by default. it also uses the concept of drops distribution. So there's a drop section where we list the things that you can drop in sand. You can drop coal, gold nugget, or stained glass. So the distribution means, well, 80% of the time we're going to drop nothing. 5% of the time we're just going to drop a coal, 3% of the time it'll be a gold nugget, 3% it'll be stained glass, and then so on. This is a combination of multiple things: gold nugget and coal, gold nugget, coal, and stained glass, 3%. So this all adds up to 100%, and this is the distribution. I do want to point out that if you land on this one, for example, like the stained glass, but you don't have the molten shovel in your hand, it'll just drop the gold nugget and the coal, because the stained glass, if we scroll down to that, here you can see the required item is molten shovel. The gold nugget and the coal do not have that required item. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig some with a normal thing here. You can see, boom, we got a coal right off the bat. If I turn the volume up, you can hear a noise too when it happens. And oh, you can hear that noise, so we got something. Looks like it was oh, it was the gold nugget right there. It fell on the ground. I was like, where is it? Okay, so to make this a little bit more exciting, we might want to turn up, there's a coal. We might want to turn up the percentage chances on that, and let's do that on the way back. Okay, so instead of 90% of the time getting nothing, let me turn the music down too. Okay, so instead of 90% of the time getting nothing, let's go with 90% of the time we're going to get this stained glass. So go up to the distribution and change that word nothing to stained glass, and then we'll reload. Okay, so now when we dig, we're not going to get stained glass though 90% of the time, because we don't have the right shovel. So 90% of the time it's landing on that option, but we don't have the right thing. So let's go over to the molten shovel. Now you can see, boom, stained glass, yellow, red, black, orange, blue, right? So the reason why it's a random color too is because we have a material data distribution. So when we land on stained glass, there's a 5% chance that it'll be pretty much any one of the 16 random colors, but there's a 25% chance that it'll be red. Okay, so that's pretty much it for sand and the combination of sand with the special item in your hand. So the thing that we were really demonstrating with this particular feature is the required item in hand and the material data distribution, but then also this idea of data or drops distribution. So the other items actually don't have a drops distribution. They all have defined items that drop. So let's go to dirt, and we can see dirt has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defined items that drop. Now each one of these has a chance of dropping with every time you dig. So with the data distribution, or the drops distribution method, only one of these groups at a time can drop. Now that group might be multiple things, but you can see that down here that's a little different. There is no data distribution. Essentially the whole dirt group has a 1% chance of dropping, so that overrides what's on the higher level, which is a 10% chance. So anything that drops from dirt will by default have a 1% chance of dropping, but it can override that. So bone overrides the 1 to give a 3% chance of dropping. Now other things override it to give even lower. So a totem has a 0.5% chance, and the skull item has a 1% chance. So arrow doesn't define the chance, so it uses the one from the parent, which is a 1%. Now we're going to make this a little bit more exciting by stepping this up to, like, I don't know, 90% or something. So now we'll have to reload the server, and we'll go back to the game, and we'll take it. One thing I want to point out first is each one of these also has a required item of archaeologist shovel. So if you don't have the archaeologist shovel, none of this stuff is going to drop. Now another thing to point out is this highest Y and lowest Y setting. So some of the things only work if you're at the exact right level. Some of them you have to be just low enough. Some of them you have to be just high enough. Some of them you have to be right in the sweet spot. So that would be one with both of them defined. So the skull item, you have to be between block 15 and 30 on the way down. So let's take a look at what this means. So we grab the archaeologist shovel and we can start digging. You can see I got a potato and an arrow, potato and an arrow, potato and an arrow. These both are dropping right now because we are at the right spot. If we had gone down deep enough, since if we look at what potato and arrow have, they don't define the drop chance percent, so they're using the one from the parent of dirt. It's 90%. Now totem specifically defines it as 0.5, so even setting it at 90% here doesn't matter to the totem. We'd have to delete this to get that, and we have to delete this highest Y in order to start getting that too. So let's go ahead and do that and reload. Now you can see we're going to be getting a totem, potato, and arrow every time. So if we take a look now one more time, we'll put this highest Y back on the totem, reload, and then try this one more time. You can see this time we just get the potato and the arrow. If we take a look at the config file, you can see what's happening every time. Every time we break a block of dirt, you can see this section here where it tells us what we're breaking. It then tells us the different items that it will consider dropping. So it will consider dropping a potato, and we were not too low. We're at block 63 high. Well, potatoes will only show up at block 62 and above, so we're high enough. If I went low enough, it would stop dropping altogether. The bone is the same concept here. We're not too low. We're at 63. That stops at block 50. And but unfortunately, we didn't get any luck for the bone. The drop chance is 3%, and the random number we generated was the number 78. So that's not a low enough number to trigger that. Next, we have the totem. Now, this one says we're too high. It needed 20. We needed to be below block 20 or at block 20 or lower to trigger the totem. If we scroll up to the last time we broke dirt, which will be before the reload too, we can see here now the totem says drop chance 90%, and the random number we came up with was 44. It doesn't say anything about height, but that's because we deleted it. Okay, so that's essentially how that stuff works. You can define these different layers. Like the deeper you go, you can start having it so that if you break obsidian blocks within the last 5 blocks before bedrock, it drops a diamond 5% of the time, stuff like that. You could do it only if the person has crafted a special item that's really hard to get the materials for. So I think it's a little bit complex in terms of like trying to understand how all this stuff works. Essentially the key things to remember again are some of these things that you see in the config file, you'll see at 3 different levels, and the lower down you go, it'll override the thing from above it. And then the other thing to look out for is some materials define drops distribution, so that you can have like groups of things that will drop, whereas other things define just percentages per thing. So there's like, if you're super lucky, you could actually end up dropping every single one of these things at a time. Not in the case of dirt, because some of these things just don't work at the same level of depth of the z coordinate, but I think you understand what I mean. Okay, so I hope you guys like it. If there's anything cool you think I could add, which I'm sure there are, some things that come off the top of my head are like things that only drop if they're next to a different kind of block. Like if you break dirt that's next to a diamond block, maybe like something like that. But yeah, the possibilities are endless. If you guys have any ideas, let me know, and enjoy.